taken. Need a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Fooey, second by Evans to approve the agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Motion to approve the minutes from March 25th meeting.
Second.
Moved by Evans, second by Fooey. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Citizens wishing to be heard. Here's Paul here about the sidewalk.
Yes.
Okay. All right, moving on. Police chief, the monthly report.
Okay, monthly report's been handed out. Within the last 5 days, we had 2 heroin overdoses, one being within an hour or so ago. So if anybody thinks that we don't have a drug problem like any other community, it's here in
Right.
Juneau, you know, so. With that said, more people should take advantage of the drug take back this Saturday, April 24th. And that's at the police department here in the lobby from 10 a.m. till 2 p.m. If you can't make it during those times, we do have our drop box that's available 24/7 in the lobby, so. I guess unless somebody has some questions, that's all that. Oh, and our one squad car is back from it got delivered from the Ford dealership, was taken down to Madison to be equipped, and we have it back and in service.
It's in service. Okay.
So just one more to go.
Yeah, and what, got a date on that for delivery or not?
Well, they're saying the first week in May is when it should be shipped from the factory, but then apparently it takes about 2 weeks to get from the factory to the dealer.
Oh, yeah.
So that part I didn't know they were gonna check to see, because I was thinking, oh, yeah, first week in May, that won't be so bad. Then
Sure.
throw 2 more weeks on there, but they were gonna see if they could expedite that if possible. So that's it, unless you guys have any questions.
Okay, you got any questions for Dave?
Nope.
All right, we'll move on, discuss and approve the sidewalk cafe ordinance.
Sean put together and had his memo along with the permit process and how that should look. I guess probably the biggest question before this committee would be, do we send it through as a ordinance, or for the first year do it as a resolution on a
You
trial
kind of mentioned like a
basis?
pilot program, just kind of see how everything goes and feel things out. I think that'd be a good idea.
I think so too, because then we can see how it goes, we can work the bugs out, and if there are changes that need to be made, then we're not changing an
Right,
ordinance.
change in ordinance, right? I think, yeah. Just have a resolution to see how it goes this summer and kind of watch what goes on.
Yeah, you know, we don't even know how many people would be interested,
Right,
not
and if-
interested, and
And how many businesses are gonna, do it, be interested in it, so.
so I don't know, Sean, if you have anything further to add to that?
That'd be your kind of take on it?
Yeah, I would recommend that it kind of goes as a pilot program, as the chief mentioned, and that way we can work the bugs out. We're not changing ordinances every year and everything else. And if anything does come up, I mean, it's something we can always pull back and stop doing right away, so.
Right, yeah. Do you have any questions, or?
I have suggestions. So as you know, I like to travel, and every time I travel, I bring something back with me that I love, and I implement it in my business. So what I found out from him, actually, what they're called is parklets. So as part of this idea, these are parklets. Basically, what I like about them is they're removable. So it's basically like a deck, and then forklifts can pick it up and take it away. So it can be set out in the spring, summer, fall, and taken away in the fall. So I didn't make enough copies, obviously. It was hard to print these. But you can see here's where it gets picked up. They look really nice. This was in Colorado a couple weeks ago when I was there.
Okay.
So I just thought that this would be great for like testing out.
Would you have like a garage or a storage area for them, or?
I don't, but.
No, what I'm just saying is that what they do then, or?
Yeah, the city would take them away and store them somewhere and then bring them back in the spring. Did you see?
Because I know that one, they talked about it should be taken out every night though, right?
With
So
the sidewalk,
sidewalk is cleared every night?
yeah, the sidewalk cafes, the tables and chairs should be removed out of normal area, yeah. Just A, for safety reasons, B, for theft and everything else.
Look
And
different so that it matches.
Yep.
the picture. It's not a trip cap. You can see this one is pretty.
Yeah, busy
Look
night.
on the other side, it's not, they're all like different.
Well, what she's speaking of is a parklet, where it's actually, it's kind of a deck in the middle and parking stalls,
So it would be on the street?
so it'd be on street, correct?
You'd probably lose 3 parking stalls, would be my guess, to make it square.
Per business?
Well, yeah, per
Oh,
parklet.
ours probably wouldn't
Per
need to
parklet.
lose any.
Okay.
If we could have the curb, we wouldn't lose any.
Well, your situation would be best be served on the Fair Street,
Um,
alongside your building rather than in front of your building.
well, I mean, I would do both.
Oh,
Well, there's no
If I
parking
could.
for some of that.
And I've looked at other cities, a lot of other cities do recommend that if it is by a corner, that there's a certain amount of space between the corner and where it is for people turning onto that corner, not realizing that right next to it is
So you
a
don't go right into
big
it?
deck, yeah.
Well, this calls for having part of the sidewalk open for 5 feet,
Correct.
so that probably wouldn't be an option then.
Well, these are two separate things. So this is allowing people to put tables and chairs out on public sidewalks. What she's looking at is actually, it's basically a small little deck that you put in parking stalls in the street.
Or in the parking
And
stall.
it's level with the sidewalk, so instead of you actually doing the tables
Stepping
and
up or
chairs on the
down.
sidewalk, they're doing the tables and chairs on
This
this
is the
wood deck.
sidewalk, and then this
Okay.
is the deck, and this is the
Okay, so I
street.
see then these are parking spots, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
these would be level with the curb so that you could have ADA accessibility, level with the curb, but the city would not be providing placement and removable of these. This would be all on you if you were gonna do it, and of what I'm seeing there, those would be put out in the spring and removed in the fall.
Right.
Yeah. So you'd have permanent loss of parking spots during the time that these are set up, so.
So when I talked to Brett, another business owner, we were looking to not take the entire street, but actually just set them like in sections, kind of how like we have the benches in sections. So it wouldn't, we would try to not take up any parking spaces if we can. But I don't know exactly how we would do it. I'm just saying like, this is a great idea. It can be removed easily. If we have to do it, I mean, I'd be willing to do it. I just don't know where we would store them. Because I know I don't have the space outside.
And I know city storage is pretty tight too.
Well, this is something that can sit outside, it just,
Yeah.
somewhere that we could put it. I don't know. You guys can keep those copies. So, I mean, as part of like the pilot program, I think it would be a really great idea, so that they're not actually standing on the street, they're actually sitting down somewhere. And like I was trying to think, like, would we allow customers to actually walk out with a drink? And personally, I would say no. I think that should be table service, where a bartender or server
Table service.
would have to come out to deliver, so they're not actually on the actual city sidewalk.
Here's kind of a pilot program that lacrosse did recently, but I just have a copy of it. I wasn't sure if it was coming up tonight or not, but I can send you a copy of those.
So I've seen it in other cities too, but I first saw it in Colorado that I thought that would be great for us.
If you send it out, I can read that.
And then of course, like, even in Colorado, they close it off. So you have the service until when you have food service, and then you close it off when it's done. So it's not like an all-night thing that people can party out there. It would be only open during food service.
Okay. Reading this over tonight, the application and everything that was in our packet, the only question that I had was the second to the last page of everything, where it said, the application will be reviewed by the Public Safety Committee and the Plan Commission. It is recommended the applicant attend the Plan Commission meeting to answer any questions. Would you want the applicant to go to Plan Commission and Public Safety? Because Public Safety, I think, actually approves the extension.
Public safety would approve the premise extension, but
Right.
public, or, plan commission would approve the structure.
The structure of
Like
it.
a site plan?
Design,
Yeah, the design of it and the,
So you're thinking their attendance just at Plan Commission would be sufficient? They wouldn't have to come to Public Safety?
Well,
Right.
I guess, I
know
guess
it's a
in
lot of
principle, I
meetings,
guess they'd have to get the blessing from public safety to move on, yeah. I guess if this group endorses the extension of premise and allowing outdoor dining, and it's not only dining now, it's also for alcohol, you know. I like her idea that table service, but I think that's gonna be very hard to control. You know, you're not gonna tell me you got a patron that's got a beer in his hand that he's not gonna, walk back and forth. I can see that happening.
I enjoy that it happens all the time, and even though we're not allowing it now, every time we see it or a bartender sees it, if the bartender is busy, we'll have a regular customer go out and grab their beer. And we have a little table inside so you can actually see it that,
Sure.
like,
And you're
no
all
one,
in front, so.
yeah, you can see everything inside our bar, but like we are very like pushy about, no, you can't have your drink out there. So as soon as we see it, we're already on it. And if we can't get to it, we ask a customer to do it. So,
but I mean, Jane, I can easily add that, I mean,
Well, what
it's
the-
recommended that they come to every single meeting, but,
right.
Yeah.
I mean, Plan Commission more, I think they're gonna have more questions in regards to setup and everything else, and I think.
Great.
Public
And is it
Safety
putting
might
too
have-
much on them to have to go to two committees when just one committee could answer, get the questions, or whatever the committee thinks? It's just something that,
Well, they almost gotta get their building permit, for what they're gonna build out there or whatever, so.
will the site plan approve? Yeah.
Well, they're not gonna be building anything.
It's a temporary.
Everything's temporary, nothing's gonna be permanent, so.
The Plan Commission would be reviewing their site plan, like the
Site plan,
placement
yeah.
of chairs and tables and anything else, but nothing permanent. No, I read it all over, and I want to thank Sean a lot for not only writing up the summary for the committee, but then also putting together the sample resolution and the actual booklet that I think as a resident or a business owner, this is very easy to read. Basically sums up everything in the summary that it gave to us as the committee members, and I'm pretty impressed with that, the booklet and everything, so
And they've done.
I think it spells everything out well.
You're saying the fee should be a little bit higher to compensate for all the time he spent in this. No, I've always been a backer of this, my kids lived in bigger cities, so, I've gone Dallas, San Diego, Milwaukee, this is something that's out there. I know the last time it was kind of shot down because of the liability issue, but once you put up your
Overhang.
awning.
very good, it's better than an overhang, I guess. But then we found out how much you actually own. We thought it was reversed. We figured we owned 2/3 and you owned 1/3. Well, it turns out that those property dimensions are right. You actually own 2/3 of the sidewalk and we only own 1/3.
Yeah.
So liability issue is what our concern was there before. I'm sure, something like this, I guess it's gonna have to be kicked around at this committee as well as planning commission. The traffic through the thoroughfare to get to these parklets out on the curb, is it better to have them against the building? But be having them against the building, it can't be a raised structure because they still have to maintain ADA accessibility to be able to get anybody in and out with a wheelchair or whatever. So you can't have a step up into those kind of things. Idea is great working off the curb like that if we can get everybody's consensus to abandon some parking
Yeah,
spots.
you lose some parking spots, so.
Well, I feel like if it's not provided by the city, then whoever can afford to build such a structure and preferably to not take up, like, I wouldn't want to take Kathy's parking. I know that's shared.
She doesn't want to take it up.
But if
I don't
I,
even have to ask her, I know
if-
she doesn't want to take it.
right, but if we can figure out, like, I do have enough space that if I can go up to the curb, that would be ideal, then I wouldn't have to take a parking spot. You know, then it would still be there. And I tell my customers already to park across the street. Tim lets my customers park across the street. So anyone that has been coming to our bar, they know to park across the street. So.
Well, the nice thing about these, they're removable,
Right.
you know, so we don't have to fight the Blue Zones Committee was promoting bump outs, fixed bump outs, which would have provided the same service because where she sits, there's that triangular piece that isn't for parking to make the radius of the curve onto Fair Street. They were promoting that at that time, and of course, you as business owners all voiced your opinion against it, you know. But that would have been a fixed structure that would have been there year-round, would have been hard for snow removal and what have you. But the theory was, you know, benches and
Right.
a couple
And
slow-growing
this-
trees and these things.
If this
and
is
what
a
have you.
pilot program, I think that this is actually the best option because it is temporary. We can see how it works, we can see if there are issues, we can make the changes. But I know ultimately, what we personally want is when they redo that road, we'd like to make it a one-way, where you come in from 26 going east. We'd like to have that a one-way, and then the rest to be concreted nicely and not have to shut down the street for any events. That's what we ultimately want. But to start out, we want to do something temporary and see how it works out. Yeah.
Now's the
So
time
what
to
are
be
we,
discussing
what are we
options.
considering?
Yeah.
Are we considering sidewalk cafes or parklets?
Sidewalk cafes right now, but it's a pilot program, so it could be something.
The only thing I
that's
have
a-
about the parklets, I think they look really neat, and it's a cool idea. But you're sticking it right out in the middle of traffic.
Mhm.
You're putting, it's closer to the cars that are going by.
Well, a lot of them show though that they have a rail towards the street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're not like, you're gonna fall backwards on a chair and be
No,
in
I'm
the
not worried
street.
about that, I'm worried about the car running into the,
Oh, I see what you're saying, yeah.
But yeah, tonight you're only talking about the cafe
Yeah.
part of it.
Right.
And if they wanna do these parklets or whatever, they need to come up with a plan and some drawings to lay out the size and that kind of stuff before,
And that's what plan commission will
yeah,
review.
that would be planned.
Yeah, sure.
I think you've got the ideal set up there on Oak, you just have the tables in front of the place and do a parklet in that parking spot on Fair, you know, that's the ideal.
Well, for me personally, I prefer the front because I can see the front. I can't see the side, so I can't keep track of what's going on there. Or if it's in the front,
And
then,
that would definitely be a stipulation.
yeah,
that's one
You
of
would
the-
have to be able to see what's going on in that area.
yeah. Or if
especially
it's
if
in the
alcohol's
front, I
being
can
served.
see the first 3 stalls to the curb.
There you go, camera.
Well, I got cameras too, but that's not the same.
So kind of the business owners that are interested in the parklets, I would think, would be come up with a plan and get on the plan commission's agenda and go forward that way. And then it'll most likely come back to this committee. But you can't approve something if you don't know what you're approving, and
right.
there's too many unknowns yet tonight.
That's another reason why maybe we should go with a pilot program, that then it can be changed.
Yeah, this can be
Yeah.
added to.
Yeah.
If the parklets are something that's gonna get moved forward, it can be added to this as a pilot program without, like Sean and I said, you're not changing an ordinance at $1,000+ a crack.
Yeah.
And the point you brought up about traffic, that's why it's here at this committee, with safety in mind, and likewise with still maintaining a throughfare, that you're not harboring the passage of people that want to walk on that street, not necessarily stop at their establishment. They got to maintain a throughfare to get, and at least 5 feet.
How's parking in back of the buildings? Is there a lot of sufficient parking that
I
there
have
could be
no
more
parking.
parking?
I
You
have
no
parking only on
Oh,
the
that's right, because
side.
you had that red shed back there that,
Kathy's.
okay. But I'm just saying could there be more parking utilized in the back of those buildings to make this more feasible?
private.
It's all private.
Except for the city lot that's off the
Way
Hay
out.
corner.
And we've had issues with people parking in our parking lot and hitting our tenant's car. So,
Yeah, they're kind of landlocked.
But no, I think Dick has a good valid point. I know there's that rail in the picture, but that's made out of, what, 2x6s or,
You deck material?
that's more, less to keep somebody from walking beyond that point.
Keep them
It's certainly
contained.
not gonna
It's not
stop
for
a car.
traffic.
Right.
The other thing to consider too is that I know my insurance personally, and I know also the bowling alley, we both have our insurance covering 100 feet away from our premise. So we already have that in our insurance policy that we are covered. So if anything were to happen, it's covered. So it shouldn't be a city concern. And you guys should have that in your stipulation that our insurance has that.
And this pilot program does have insurance stipulations on it
Yeah.
when you apply, so. Those are all good ideas to bring up.
Well, I'll make a motion that we proceed with a pilot program for the sidewalk cafes. And following this pamphlet that Sean put together for 1 year.
Yep, for 1 year, so that.
Recommend a resolution and exhibit B to forward to council.
Yeah.
I second that.
All right, we have a motion and second for, approve the creation of a pilot program to allow sidewalk cafe for 1 year. Resolution, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried for the resolution.
That's what I'm here for. Thank you.
Okay, yep, thank
I
you.
guess if you want to pursue the parklet idea, go to the plan commission
Yeah.
is the next step, right?
Sounds good.
All right, Dave, we'll move on to accept the resignation of Jennifer Funk.
See
Okay,
you, say hi to
I
Chuck.
received a resignation effective April 5th, 2021.
You said you received it already?
Yeah, took effect April 5th.
Okay.
Where's she going to?
Don't know.
Do we need to move on this?
Yeah, do we need a motion for that?
Yeah, you probably
Yeah,
should.
Okay.
I'll also move to accept the resignation of Jennifer Funk.
Second?
Okay, we got a motion second to approve the resignation of Jennifer Funk. All those opposed or approve? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Should Go to council too?
Hey, no,
No, that isn't
No?
even a formality.
Okay, then you need authorization to hire a new officer.
yeah. So we'll have to start the process over, advertise it and go through the norm and hopefully with everything that's been going on the last few days and the last year, we've still got people interested in becoming a police officer. so-
Right, exactly. All right,
I'll make a motion to start the hiring process for a new police officer.
Second.
got a motion second to approve the hiring of a new officer. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right, I guess you can start looking for an officer, Dave.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Anything else for Dave? Anybody got any questions? All right, next we had EMS monthly report, but Dan had to go on a call, so he is not here. He did give the report here we had, so any question we can ask him next month, I guess. And fire chief, he could not make it tonight either, and there's a report for, small report he had given for the fire calls he had.
Probably the only thing, John, would be from EMS, that CPR machine. I don't know what the correct verbiage is, but they received it.
Yeah, they did receive the
And
one.
they trained on it, and they had it out last night at fireman's meeting. It's very impressive.
Yeah,
I think I saw a video or a picture of it
Yeah.
somewhere.
there's a board, they just strap that board and can do CPR all by itself, so I mean, don't get tired, so I got, very nice. They're working on the second one, I believe, too, so we got one already on board and they're using it, so. The next, emergency government director, Dave.
Well, April was Tornado Awareness Week, and like the sheriff's department post said, they wanted to practice and practice well, so they set the sirens off a day early and then on the actual drill. But you know, the one thing, you go on Facebook and you read comments and that from people under those posts, and they talk about, well, I never heard the siren. Well, people have to remember that those are outside warning devices for when people are outside. They're not meant to be heard inside a factory or other places. That's why you have weather alert radios and that kind of stuff. It's meant for the person that's outside. Now, granted, everybody may have a cell phone, but you can't always say that either, because to get the alerts. But it's always kind of interesting, the misinformation that's out there from people and that. But you know, we got the 3 sirens located throughout town. They're an electric motor. They run forever. I think in the last 30 years, we had one motor get reworked. Other than that, typically Dan and I are able to troubleshoot what it is. And they've been running, they're probably now at least 70 years old, I
Some
think.
of them, at least 1 or 2 might have.
You know, but they just keep on going. Sometimes they don't sound so nice, but that's from the wind that pushes the sound around more so than anything. But
Very little to go wrong with them. You know, the biggest electronics on them is the receiver that triggers them, but the siren itself is pretty simple and pretty foolproof, I guess, is what to say. I mean, it doesn't cost the city a lot to keep what we got and keep it going. Everything's permanently mounted. They're all, they have 3-phase services to them all, and I think for most cases where we've got them positioned, it provides pretty good coverage in town. I think, like Dave says, if you're standing outside and they're blowing, you can hear them just about wherever you are in town. But being inside closed doors, that might be a different story.
So when you have the test, does somebody go around and make sure that they're all going off?
actually, yes, on Saturdays at 12:30.
Okay.
A lot of times Dan or myself, especially on the Saturdays I work, I try and, or if I'm even at home, I'll go outside and you can hear. Plus, the citizens that live nearby are pretty vigilant on calling to let us know. You know, especially in winter time, if you get a driving snow, that may blow into the funnels, and if it's slushy, it'll freeze up and then it'll kick it out. and then, it may not blow for a day or two, and somebody's pretty good about calling. You know, if it's the one down that blows at dinner time, sometimes people don't wanna call too soon, because especially if they work third shift, that rattles the cage pretty good down there, but, yeah, no, people are real good about calling. And,
You could probably stand in the courthouse square and pretty much tell that all three of them are working. You can pretty much, in that location, you could pretty much tell. There's one at the north, one at the west, and one at the southeast. You can pretty well hear all three of them going at once. I can pick it up pretty easy when one doesn't work, and that's usually when I give Dave a call on a Saturday. I think the one up by Hickey's Hill didn't go off today, and we'll go and check it. It's usually a minor repair, and we get it going again. Like Dave said, a couple of years ago, we had to drop the one up on North Main, and that used to be on the roof of the old city hall. So yeah, I can only tell you how many old years that guy, when he says 70 years, he's probably not exaggerating, because that's probably one of the first sirens that we ever had in town. Sure, it was right up on the...
I remember when we only had one.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, that was probably it.
And we upgraded the one down by the fire station. That used to be one that was close to the ground, you know, on a wooden pole right next to the fire station. And then as some of these evolved, and Dave's even been lucky, we commonly know some guys in the fire service that are collectors of those things. And one guy was gracious enough to give Dave a twin to one of them we already had.
we had a spare.
He was just keeping it for a collector's item is really what it was, but should function fine if we have to put it in the service. So I think we're good. All the new stuff that has all that electronics and battery backup, we tried that one year. We spent so doggone much money. We had electronics sirens, if you remember, at one period of time. We had one down by the old co-op filling station there. What have we spent more time fixing that than what it was worth, you know? So went back to these. These are our old standard. We're pretty happy with them. I think Dave always brought up a point. It's not really our responsibility to provide that. You know?
Yeah, some communities went away from sirens altogether, and a one-time deal, they issued the weather alert radios to residents. Well, how do you keep up on that? You know, but, and then somebody moves in or whatever, then, you know, that's just an endless money thing there then, but, that, and I think I said it last month, people should have a plan and practice it, check their basements to make sure that they got a safe spot to go to, and because we're in that season. Granted, we had snow yesterday again, but you never know, that could change just like that, so.
Yeah.
Other than that, that's what I have.
All right, thanks, David. Anybody got anything for future agenda items? Nothing, I guess, so. Old business? Anything going on, do we? Any new business? Otherwise, date and time for next meeting is Thursday, May 20th at 6:30. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion second. All in favor?
All right.
Opposed? We are adjourned. 7:05.